Okay, and here we are. Of course, I appreciated your
Sure.
last movie, and I will start from directly from Gatsby with its
Uh-huh.
with its tweed blazer, look like a mini Woody Allen in a way,
Uh-huh.
and then and then he spends a night in this wonderful hotel on Central Park. I mean, don't you think that that kind of character uh, look like belong to the past? I mean, what's wrong with the present time with you?
There's nothing wrong. Well, on one hand, everything is wrong, of course, but there's nothing wrong. Very important to live in the present. Very important. But there are some people that enjoy, just like someone enjoys a hobby, whether it's basketball or fishing or uh, whatever their hobby is, collecting stamps. Some people enjoy the the life of years ago, the music of years ago, the films of years ago. Not everybody enjoys it, but there are people that do that like that kind of thing, and every now and then you come across someone like that, and I find them interesting. I'm like that to some degree, not completely, but to some degree I'm like that myself. That gets enjoyment out of old films and old music, and has an appreciation of life in New York City when I was a little boy or even before I was born, and has an appreciation for life in Paris years ago. I just get an enjoyment out of it, but it's momentary, and you can't dwell on it too long because you live in the present and you have to face all the problems of the present.
Um, Gatsby and Ashley seems to be very much in love, and then a weekend in New York City was enough to make their relation go wrong in a way. Why the love boat is so prone to sinking,
So prone to,
to sink?
well, they're probably not really in love. It's probably just two young kids at college, and you at that age you go this one, this one, this one. They have many superficial relationships, and she's a pretty girl, and
Yeah.
she's a journalist, and he's a intelligent boy, and so they have a little romance at college, but then when he comes back to the city, he really understands that this is really where he belongs, and he understands his mother for the first time, and he understands what he wants to do with his life, and he sees that there are women that are more in tune with his idiosyncratic personality.
Um, every minor detail can ruin a relationship. There's the girlfriend of the brother of Gatsby who has got this laugh, which
Yeah.
is horrible. Uh, is there any? And then you say that there are so many deal breakers. Is there any salvation?
I know that's one of the sad things of life. Very often, just a little thing that goes wrong. Relationships between men and women are very finely tuned, like the wires of a radio or something, and they must really be tuned together. And if or maybe I'll give you a different metaphor. If you have, let's say, no one little element, one little vitamin in your body missing, you may have every other vitamin, every other mineral, everything you need, but if you don't have quite enough zinc or quite enough iron, it will kill you. And that's what it is in a relationship. You have to have the whole thing, otherwise the relationship fails. So if a little thing is missing, then very often the relationship fails. It doesn't always fail. I mean, sometimes it continues, but with conflict in it all the time, and much of it becomes unpleasant.
With the same metaphor of vitamins, is there any supplement that you can take in order to? I mean, if you don't have it at the very beginning, I'm sorry.
Everybody tries with the supplements. They try, psychoanalysis. They try sexual therapy. They try yoga. They try. They do make many attempts, and sometimes it works, but not usually. You find in a relationship the things that you love in life, your enjoyments. Again, I go back to whether it's owning a boat or watching sports or mountain climbing, whatever it is. Those are things that you love and you look forward to doing them. You just can't wait to do them. In a relationship, you have to look forward to it. If it's work, when people always say, well, a relationship, we work at it. Once you have to work at it, it becomes work. It becomes a chore, and it loses the exuberant feeling that makes it so pleasurable to people. That's why it's so dependent on luck. You think you can make it work, you think you have all the angles covered, and on paper it works fine, but in real life you have to be lucky.
Which kind of romance did you have at the age of Gatsby and Ashley?
I myself got married very young. I would, if I was Gatsby, I would have married that girl. I got married very quickly. I was only 20, younger than Gatsby, and I would have. But it was important because I married a very nice girl, and it forced us to move out of our parents' house and to move into Manhattan and to start to live our life. I had to work and earn money and send the girl to school and to support us, and it was a very good thing. And we were married for some years, and then we grew apart naturally because people that young it's very hard to stay. And we remained friends. I mean, I'm still friendly with her to this day. I'm 83, she's 80, and I don't see her because she doesn't live near me, but we remain friends over the years.
And what have you learned since then on the way to make relationship go in the good way, to work fine?
One, that it's mostly luck. That it's not a lot of things that you can learn and do. It's not an exact science. You have to be lucky, and you have to know how to fight, because you will get into fights, but you have to know how to fight, and you have to really bend over backwards to be very tolerant, to not to let the other person's irritating habits or bad habits or annoying habits really make you very upset. You have to be ready to overlook them and not make them. Otherwise, you're constantly in conflict, and but most of it is luck. You have to have a relationship with someone that you've been lucky with, and the two of you have a nice relationship, and there'll still be some fights, but you have to know how to handle those. But mostly you have to be lucky. If you're unlucky, then it's very hard to make it work by using science or intellectual power.
Yeah. Dissatisfaction is another powerful engine. In the movie, the director Pollard is not happy at all about the movie, and he thinks about quitting. You weren't very happy about Manhattan once it came out, right? Apparently, you also offered to the United Artists to do another movie because you didn't like it. I mean,
Correct.
how is that possible that you didn't like it? What was wrong? I mean, no.
Well, there's no correlation between the artist and the audience. I have a concept for a film, and I do it, and then when I'm finished executing it, I look and see, did I make the movie that I wrote? Did it, and sometimes I think, oh yes, it's very good. I did a good job. But very often I think, more often I think, I made so many mistakes. I got this wrong, and I did such a bad job. And so when I finished Manhattan, I felt, I made so many mistakes, and I got this wrong and that wrong, and so I felt discouraged. Then the picture came out, and everybody all over the world liked the picture.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between the artist's experience of the film and the creative process and the audience's. So sometimes I make a film, I think it's so wonderful, and nobody likes it. Because, we're just two different things, the audience and the artist. And Manhattan was a good example of a picture that I didn't think much of, and everybody was getting something out of it, something, and I didn't know what, but I was very happy.
But can you name a single mistakes that you did? Because now it's the 40th anniversary of Manhattan.
In Manhattan,
a single one. Because I don't see any. So
I became too preachy. I became too didactic. I said too much. The message of a movie can never be in the mouth of somebody in the movie. The message has to be from watching the people. And I said too much in that movie, verbally, not cinematically.
Is that something that applies also to whatever works, this critic, in a way, or
whatever works? I'm trying to think which film that was. Which one was Whatever Works? Was that with Larry David?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, that was. I was fine with that film. No, the character of Larry David was supposed to be preachy, a nasty, unhappy person, and he played it perfectly. No, that was fine with me. I enjoyed that.
That was great. Yeah. And since you quoted that, I mean, the opposite is true. I mean, movie that you liked very much that they weren't so well received by the public. Can you give me one example?
Yes, Hollywood Ending.
Hollywood Ending.
It was a film that I thought was very funny and had a very
It was,
good
yeah.
comic premise, and I thought we did it well. And I was surprised that more people didn't come to see it. I think the people that came to see it laughed at it, but nobody came to see it.
And more recently, have you been dissatisfied from some other works of yours?
Well, I'm usually dissatisfied all the time. I mean, you know, because when you're home writing, everything is perfect. You know, when I envision it, because you don't have to meet the test of reality. You're writing, so this is perfect, and this actor's perfect, and they do it perfectly, and the location's perfect, the costumes are perfect. It's great. Then when you have to do it, and you find you can't get the actor you want, and you can't find the location that's exactly right, and you're there at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's cold, or it's raining, and they're saying, hurry up, it costs a fortune, you know, and so when the picture's over, you know, my friend Marshall Brickman said, when you make a movie, every morning the truck pulls up with fresh compromises. And I agree. You can't have you doing a party and you need 200 extras, but you can only pay for 50. So you have to make it work with 50, and all these compromises come on. So you're disappointed all the time. I'm always disappointed when I'm finished with a movie. I mean, maybe if they gave me a lot of money to make a movie and I could make it, and if I saw anything wrong, could fix it, or I saw anything wrong, could fix it, maybe that would be, you know, a help. But otherwise, they're all disappointing. The only one that was not disappointing to me when I finished it was Match Point. When I finished Match Point, I thought to myself, this is perfect. It's exactly what I wrote at home, and there it is on the screen. Everybody's good. It looks the way I want it to look. I was very happy with it. That's rare.
Rare. The Young Gatsby goes to the shrink. Are you still convinced that it can be a saving life experience in a way, also for young kids like the Gatsby?
I always went.
Yeah.
I was an early psychoanalytic patient, and went on and off for many years, and I always found it to be helpful. Not as helpful as you want. When you go in, you know, you want everything to magically change, you know, and be perfect. That doesn't happen. But it is helpful. I found that. And you know, I think if anybody just stops for 1 hour every day and talks about their deepest feelings with no inhibitions to someone that listens, a professional, and he never says anything, but if you just talk, over time, you do start to understand some things about yourself. Most people go their whole life and they never stop for 1 hour and just talk about their feelings about everything, about their parents, about their wife, their husband, their job, what they think about living, dying, everything. And, you know, nothing dramatic happens. And then you do it again the next day and the next day. And over a long period of time, you learn something about yourself. From repeating yourself and repetition, you don't learn a lot. It's not like, my God, this is so amazing. But you do learn more than the person that never thinks about himself.
Yeah. at a certain point in the movie, the cheating wife of Davidoff, Jude Law, the Jude Law character, says that all papers are tabloid. Are
Yes.
gossip papers in a way. I mean, also the serious one. Do you believe that?
I don't. I'm a big journalist fan. I did a movie called Scoop,
Yeah, of course.
which was I wanted to be a journalist. I'm very. I have a tendency personally to romanticize journalism. To me, journalists. When I grew up, journalists always got the story and saved the person from the electric chair and exposed the corrupt politicians and when no one else would do it, the journalists did it. So I always have a romantic view. I mean, that is a joke in the movie that she's angry and she says this, but if anything, I lean toward glamorizing, like in Scoop, journalists. I think they're I myself for a while wanted to be a sports journalist. That was something that interested me, and I think it's a great job, and it's one of the few exciting and dramatic jobs it's not in show business, but it's just as exciting and dramatic and full of another kind of reporter that interested me personally when I was younger was a crime journalism.
Yeah.
I thought about being a crime reporter.
Do you usually read the newspaper every day?
Yes, I do. I do.
May I ask, New York Times or?
Yes, the New York Times. It gets delivered to my house.
Okay. There's a line in the movie which says, "Time flies and it flies, coach."
Yes.
What's
Unfortunately,
yeah. what's your relationship with how do you cope with this flying coach?
It goes fast and not comfortably. Not it's a very rough ride, a very uncomfortable. Time flies, and you are not flying first class by any means. You're flying the hard way, and that's life. It's a journey, and a very, very uncomfortable one for everybody, really. Rich, poor, Europeans, Americans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an uncomfortable journey.
Yeah, but that didn't change much your routine. I mean, at least job-wise, no?
No, I didn't change my job.
Not at all.
I've been very lucky in life that I was able to, work at what I like. But, and that's minor. In the end, though, existentially, we're all in the same terrifying boat. I mean, when it's all over, I'm in the same boat as the man who didn't have any luck, or the man who was very much richer than me and much more successful and much more artistic than me or much more in love. We all wind up, as I showed in a movie once, we're all on the same train, we're on the same destination, different trains, but they all lead to the same place.
Do you have any trick not to think about it, or you just keep busy, or?
Yes, you hit it right on the head. The trick is not to think about it. There's nothing you can do about it, and to distract yourself. To try, you can distract yourself many ways. Some people distract themselves through watching soccer. Some people distract themselves through helping other people. Some people distract themselves by mountain climbing, by going to the movies. By some people do drugs. But in the end, you hiding from a very unpleasant reality that you have no choice but to try and keep away from, because if you with it all the time, it paralyzes you.
Um, Back to Manhattan. You
Mhm.
you gave a long list of reasons for which it was worth to be living. Um, did you update it? That list?
I made a big mistake when I made that list. I didn't.
Why?
No, it's all everything on it is great.
Yeah, it's great. I mean,
But at the
what's
time,
not to like?
I got a letter from a woman who said to me, "You mentioned all that, but you didn't mention your child
Hmm.
in the movie." And I thought, "Oh, a mistake." Now, when I made that movie, in real life, I had no children. So it didn't occur to me, oh, yes, I like this jazz record, I like that music, I like this
Yeah.
restaurant. And it never occurred to me the child was just a character in the movie, and that was that. But since then, I have two daughters of my own, and I have children, and it's a very, very different situation. I would have added Manzi and Bichet, my two daughters.
That's the only addition you do to that list, or?
There might be some others that have, that have come up in the interim. I don't think about it, but I'm sure there are others. If I sat down now, there would. But those were the main ones.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe at the end of the movie, I thought, oh God, I forgot my own son. But I forgave myself because I didn't really have the experience of knowing what it was like.
Elaine's is not there anymore.
No.
Okay. And now, what's your favorite place in New York
Well,
City?
we go to different places, but there's never anything like Elaine's. Elaine's was unique. Lorraine,
And why so?
Any night at Elaine's, on any given night, you could see 50 famous people in politics and painting and arts and in the cinema and the stage. And I ate dinner at Elaine's restaurant every single night for 10 years. And it was like home. I just walk in, the same table, I knew everybody. And, it could be a blizzard outside and snow and freezing. And it would be 12 o'clock midnight and Elaine's jammed, and there's the mayor of New York, and there's some of the best basketball players, and over there is movie actors from Europe. And I mean, I met everyone at that restaurant from Michelangelo Antonioni to and Fellini and Simone de Beauvoir. I mean, it's amazing. And very informal. You just come in. You didn't get dressed or anything. The food was terrible, and people it was just an easy-going place to sit and talk with your friends, and it was just there will never be anything like Elaine's. That happened by accident. She didn't start out to do that. She started out, helping some writers. They didn't have any money, and she let them eat there for nothing every night. And gradually, some painters who were friends with the writers came, and some actors who were friends with the painters. And after a few years, it was fantastic.
The place to be. Yeah. Apparently, habits are a strong suit of yours. I mean, the habits, routine, keeping your habits, keep you comfortable in a way. Habits.
Habits.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember researching about you about the font that you use for your movie. This Windsor elongated font that you use for every movie of
Oh,
yours.
yes,
Yeah.
because when I started making movies, um, the Hollywood movies would spend a fortune of money on titles,
Yeah.
and I didn't have that. I didn't. I wanted to spend the money on the movie and not the titles. So I found a nice typeface
Yeah.
and made that the typeface, and then used it for the rest of my life because it was inexpensive and it said what I wanted to say, and it was, but it was because at that time the fashion was to have very fancy titles. And my first two movies,
Yeah.
I had fancy titles. First two or three, I had fancy titles, and I thought this is ridiculous. I'm spending money for titles that I could be having 10 extras at the party, or an extra 2 days of shooting.
Okay. Um, what are your favorite directors right now?
Well, I like Scorsese very much, always have, and Francis Coppola. From my generation, I mean, I
Yeah.
love them very. Paul Thomas Anderson, I find a wonderful director. There's any number that I like. There's so many talented filmmakers around. But they come to mind quickly. I mean, if we were here longer, I'm sure I could give you a long list of them.
And who makes you laugh?
Who makes me laugh? That's a good question. Well, the writer S.J. Perelman
Uh-huh.
makes me laugh out loud when I read. I actually laugh. I don't have to invest anything. The burden of entertainment is on him, and I laugh. And then I do laugh at some old movies. I laugh at W.C. Fields.
Yeah.
I laugh at Groucho Marx. But I don't laugh. I don't really laugh. I appreciate others, but in terms of actually laughing, they make me laugh. I mean, I will actually laugh. It's rare. Usually I appreciate. I can watch someone like the American comedian Mort Saul, and I never laugh at him, but to me he's a genius who I could watch all day, every day.
Any more contemporary stand-up comedians or anyone who...
Contemporary comedians?
Yeah.
I don't
Not
follow.
particularly, yeah.
I don't follow, so I don't see them.
Sarah Silverman or
Who?
Sarah Silverman.
I don't know their work.
Yeah.
I don't know their work.
I see.
I came up at a time when nightclubs were very big.
Yeah.
Now, there are no more nightclubs, so I never see any comedians. I know they're on television, but I never watch that. I never watch, whenever I turn on the television set, we go out for dinner almost every night. When I come back at 10:30 at night, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, after dinner, I turn on either the baseball game or the news, and I go to sleep very quickly. So I'm not a television watcher.
I see. Not series, not TV
I've
series,
never seen one.
Never seen.
Nope, I've never seen one. Okay. Not a single one. And I know they're good because people who I respect say this is wonderful, and I saw this one, it's wonderful, and that one. But my lifestyle just doesn't bring me in contact with them.
Do you know Louis C.K.? because
I know him
yeah,
because I
it's
worked
gonna
with
be
him.
in Milan
I worked with him.
in July. Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
like him.
Yeah.
I worked with him in a movie.
Yeah.
He was in one of
Yeah.
my movies.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this usual, I mean, topic about you being in a way more appreciated in Europe than in the US. Is that correct?
I
Or
don't think
yeah,
that's completely
yeah,
correct. There have been individual
yeah,
things of mine
yeah,
that have been more appreciated, but in general, if I come out with a movie,
yeah,
in general, if they like it in the United States, it usually does well in Europe. If they don't like it in the United States, it doesn't do as well in Europe usually. And sometimes, every now and then, Europe will like it, but it's not. Generally, there's not so much dissimilarity.
but still, let's rephrase the question like this: how do you think that the European audience differ from the American one in your
They've
experience?
always been the cinema audience
Yeah.
has always been a more sophisticated audience. When we were watching silly Doris Day movies and silly Hollywood movies, European cinema was alive with Bergman and Fellini and De Sica and Antonioni and Truffaut, and you know, it was a grown-up, innovative, adult cinema, and we were still doing silly, inhibited, backward kind of movies. We've grown up a lot since then, but the European audiences have always been more sophisticated, more grown up. And the American audiences always have one foot in escapism in the movies, whereas European audiences almost always have one foot in confrontation.
Do you think the American audience is more bigot in a way?
More what?
Bigot?
Bigot?
Yeah.
You mean racially bigoted or bigoted in what
Vis-a-vis
way?
of morals. I mean, they're more puritanical and...
I think there's a small, not too small, but a smaller audience in America that is European style and sophisticated, and they support the more sophisticated movies and the more advanced movies. They're people that are more, just generally more sophisticated. A small amount of them. For the most part, the audience, you know, you can see what makes $100 million, $500 million, $200 million are those blockbuster movies, which are not sophisticated. They're aimed at a fairly broad audience, whereas if someone comes up with a more sophisticated film, they get a much smaller audience. But there is an audience for what I guess would be European quality films.
Talking of America now, apparently irony is and is all over the place, all over the internet. How the irony has changed from the 60s until now, and
what has changed?
Irony and
irony. I don't know myself because I'm not an internet person. I was left behind when the technological revolution occurred, I don't own a computer. I don't know how to work one. I don't have a word processor. I use my old typewriter. I I I just am not technologically savvy, so I don't really know much about that. I just, I don't know. I know that when a film comes out, I've heard that they get many more opinions about it
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
social media. Whether these opinions are deeper than the critics' opinions or much more shallow, much less educated, much more educated, I don't know. And I don't know how it resonates in the box office of films because I've never really been interested in it. But I don't know if it means more money for the film industry or less money. I don't know. I think it was a mistake years ago when the newspapers started printing the box office numbers of films. Films are not judged by the amount of money they make, the quality of a film. So when a film comes out and it doesn't make much money, the general public regards it as a failure. When in fact it may be a much finer piece of work than something that makes much, much more money. So the emphasis on film as a product or a new automobile or a new product to buy is not helpful to stimulating films as an art form. It would be nicer if you could just put your film out and, it can be discussed by the critics, nothing wrong with that. But, people that want to see it, and people that don't. But not that, someone will put out a film and they get a phone call the first weekend and say, it did $75 million, and that's what makes it a successful film. Or somebody else will say it did very poorly at the box office. It shouldn't matter. They shouldn't. That's information that should not color the distribution of a film, but it does.
Yeah, it does, and
it does,
you perfectly know that it's a very expensive endeavor to make a movie. It's tremendously expensive.
Yes.
So in a way, either you think about public financing of movies, that could be an option for quality movies like the one you do. Otherwise, this kind of blackmail from the production will
the ones
take place.
You're talking about, are conceived in venality, though. They're made to make money. That is they spend a lot. It's a big investment. They spend $150 million, $200 million making it, and they want a big return. It's a big financial investment situation. That's not what The Bicycle Thief is. It's a small amount of money and a fine piece of work, and
You'll do your next one in Spain, right?
Yes, that's the next week. You'll begin.
Okay, wonderful. And it won't be too expensive, that one?
It depends. I don't make expensive films because I've never been able to make enough money with my films to make expensive films. So if you finance me, I always get financed to a certain point, because if you finance me to a certain point, you're safe, you won't lose money. But beyond that point, you will lose money. So I'm always working at what would be considered, a fairly small budget.
A couple of years ago, Philip Roth said, I mean, retired in a way. He said, I'm happy with what I've done, and I won't write any more novels because he thought his prime was past. Did that very rare decision resonated in you in any possible way?
It did not. It did not ever occur to me. Philip Roth was a much deeper man than me, a much more intelligent, educated, and deeper person, and greater artist. And that kind of thinking never occurred to me. I just make films as long as somebody will pay for the films. I make them, but it never occurred to me. Mice?
No.
Mice?
No. It's a fly. Anyway, in New York City, you should be used to mice.
Yeah. Rats.
Rats as well. Yeah. Can I ask you a couple of last things about what's your routine now? Once you are not working.
When I'm not working?
Yeah.
But I'm always working.
Yeah, which is never.
I mean, I get up in the morning and do some exercise, treadmill,
Okay.
and I write and I work, and then I have lunch with my wife, and in the afternoon I usually work some more and practice my clarinet, and then go out to dinner with my wife, and that's it. I mean, I live a very quiet, unexciting, uneventful life, and it's just fine with me. I mean, my little habits are just uninteresting and fine. But I write all the time. I usually write.
How many hours?
7 days a week.
7 days a week.
Usually.
Sunday
yeah.
included. Yeah.
Yes, because I enjoy writing. It's like my fishing or hiking or boating. It's my recreation. I enjoy writing. So if I'm writing a movie, I write a movie. If not, I could be writing a play. I could be writing a book. Or I like to lay on my bed in my bedroom and write. I make my own hours. I have lunch when I want. I stop and play the clarinet when I want. It's a very nice life, a writer's life.
And when can we expect a memoir written by you?
Oh, I think this coming year, next year, right after the first of this year.
2020 or
2020, right?
Yeah.
Yes, 2020.
Okay. Because it's been a while before I came here. I made some research on the New Yorker that you don't write for them anymore.
No,
it's been,
because it's the humor in the New Yorker now is very small quantitatively, and mine are not. So I don't. It's a different style of humor.
Yeah.
I write in the style of humor of the old humor writers of the New Yorker. S.J. Perlman, Robert Benchley, Dorothy Parker. But this writing is very different. It's really, there's an illustration that's half the page, and then there's some little idea. So I don't do that. And it's sad because apart from the New Yorker, there's no other venue for comic writing. There's no place really to publish comic writing. Years ago, the New Yorker used to be a magazine for comedy writers, for authors, for the arts, for poetry, for culture. Now it's very political, and just a little bit left, and very little left for comedy.
Yeah. Talking about politics, how is life how is like to live in New York City, to live in America under Trump?
Oh well, what can one say? I mean, it's 24 hours, 7 days a week, Donald Trump. You know, I'm one of the few people that directed him in a movie.
Huh.
He was in Celebrity.
I didn't remember about
Yes,
it. Yeah,
if
yeah,
you see the movie Celebrity.
Yeah.
He's in- And, you know, but I'm so tired. Yeah, but, you know, so many of us are tired of it. That's all you ever see on television, 7 days, 24 hours.
Yeah.
Every newspaper. I mean, I've never seen so much coverage in my life. You know, I don't know what to say about it. It's like a tsunami of publicity. You can't pick up any magazine, any newspaper, turn on any television set. It isn't about Donald Trump, about Donald Trump. So I'm tired of it already. I want some other news. I want the baseball scores. I want the theater criticism. You know, it's you know what there's nothing to say about it that hasn't been said
Yeah.
1,000 times now. And
Yeah, but still, the New Yorker that you just quoted, I mean, every single issue, they go against Trump with no avail, I'm sorry to say. Do you think it's a national obsession or there's reasonable ground to talk about Trump because he constantly lies and he does all the things he does?
I think, you know, he's a larger than life character like no other president the country's had, and everybody writes about him. Everybody's fascinated with his stories, his behavior, everything he does is news. I mean, there's nothing, you know, there's nothing he ever says or does that isn't news, that is not constantly put in the newspapers. And you know, I mean, it's. I think when the next election comes around, if there's a new president, and I think there probably will. Of course, I predicted there was no chance that he would ever win. I was one of the people that predicted it. I think if there's a new president, you know, things will get back to more normal coverage. They'll cover the president, they'll cover Congress, they'll cover crime, they'll cover sports. But for the last 3 years, it's been 24/7 Donald Trump.
Oversaturation, I've recently interviewed Adam Gopnik, that I think you know.
I know
the guy
Adam.
from the New Yorker. And he had very nice words about you. Then he made a comparison between Trump and the way he speaks, he behaves, he talks about women, and the fact that you've been, as everybody knows, a victim of a new McCarthyism, which is, I mean, for European standard, unbelievable. Don't you see the irony of a president who says the things he said, and the fact that you have been blamed as being...
I see a million ironies, but you know, that's what makes an exciting television, exciting news, and you know, these things come and go, and that's what, you know, that's what that's what makes the excitement of turning on your television set or picking up your newspapers. This is what fills it in, and if you're in the public eye, you get used to it. The important thing is, and I've always thought this from when I first started, the important thing is to keep your nose to the grindstone, to keep working, to wake up in the morning. I remember this from 50 years ago when I first started, not to read what the critics say about you, not to believe when they call you a genius, not to believe when they call you an idiot, not to think of it, just to get up in the morning, work, and if you do good work, everything will take care of itself. Don't think about money. Don't think about, just do good work, and everything will take care of itself. You will make a living. You will earn enough money to make a living if you do good work. There will always be an audience that may be small, but there will always be people interested if your work is good. And that's the way I've lived my life. Just as I say, 7 days a week, up in the morning, and after the silly treadmill, which I hate, back down to writing. And I don't go to the openings of my movies. I don't go to the parties. I live a very quiet life of just work.
Okay, very last question. Do you think this witch hunt will finish sooner or later?
Which
The witch hunt will finish sooner or later?
Well, I think all witch hunts finish. I mean, there are many witch hunts in the world going on at the same time, and eventually they all peter out, because a witch hunt, by definition, it's not a good thing, and sooner or later they all do peter out.
Let's hope so. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a great pleasure
Nice
and
to
a
see
honor.
you.
Yeah. Thank you. Let me switch this off and I'm done.